Good morning. This is Rootwork on KPFK-Pacifica Network and on Black Liberation Media. How y'all doing? My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga. It is the fourth Thursday of the month. For the folks on YouTube, that means this is Rootwork Local, where we talk about local concerns, priorities, organizations, etc. here in the Los Angeles and Southern California area. If you are tuning in from KPFK, then you know it is, we are in our fund drive. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org on the web. That is where that phone number, that web address, that is where you can make a secure donation, a secure pledge to keep Pacifica Radio here in Southern California, here in Los Angeles, KPFK, independent and on the air. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. Again, this is KPFK at 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara, 93.7 FM San Diego, 99.5 FM Ridgecrest, China Lake. I have no idea where Ridgecrest, China Lake is, but the point being is that KPFK covers a broad swath of Southern California, up through Bakersfield, I do believe. That is a very strong signal. 100,000 watts at last count. It takes a lot to keep that on the air. It takes a lot to cover these areas of Southern California, keeping people informed. And that is why it is important, it is imperative that KPFK remain independent and on the air. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. Today, we're going to be talking about media reparations. We're also going to be talking about how to reimagine safety in terms of reimagining the duties and roles of sheriffs. But before we do that, we're going to go to Pacifica News headlines. I hope.
Of closing due to the shutting down, since the stocks are being depleted.
Arab mediators, meanwhile, are working on a proposal to end the war that would include a 5 to 7 year truce and the release of all remaining hostages. Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas called on Hamas to release the hostages in order to what he said was block Israel's pretext for continuing the war. A planned meeting between top U.S., British, French, and Ukrainian diplomats to discuss a peace deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine was canceled at the last minute. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pulled out. President Donald Trump's Mideast envoy Steve Witkoff was to attend. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said today during a visit to India, the U.S. has issued an explicit proposal to the Russians and the Ukrainians that would freeze territorial lines at some level close to where they currently stand hand, with both sides having to give up some territory they currently hold. He did not provide further details and said it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from the process. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky ruled out ceding territory to Russia as part of any potential peace agreement Tuesday, calling it a non-starter. Today, he said Ukraine was ready for peace negotiations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has unveiled a massive overhaul of the State Department, reducing the staff by 15% while closing and consolidating more than 100 bureaus worldwide. Those likely to be eliminated include the Office of Global Women's Issues, as well as the State Department's diversity and inclusion efforts. Spokesperson Tammy Bruce.
The sprawling bureaucracy created a system more beholden to radical political ideology than advancing America's core national interests. That is why today, Secretary Rubio is announcing a comprehensive reorganization plan that will bring the department into the 21st century.
It follows the Trump administration's near gutting of the USAID, the Agency for International Development, with an estimated $40 billion budget focused largely on humanitarian aid. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is assailing the International Monetary Fund and World Bank after they warned Tuesday President Donald Trump's tariffs could cause inflation. Trump Tuesday said 145% tariffs on China could come down substantially. Today, he said negotiations with countries continue. 6 Democrats traveled to the detention facility in Louisiana, where the Trump administration is holding 2 visa holders who've spoken out against Israel's war in Gaza, Columbia graduate Mahmoud Khalil and Tufts University PhD student Ramesa Ozturk. They both have American-born children. The administration is moving to deport them. Here's Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey and Congress members Jim McGovern and Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts speaking outside the facility.
It's a national disgrace what is taking place. They are not being charged with a crime. There is no evidence that could convict them of a crime.
Both of these individuals are political prisoners. I really worry that this administration is ushering in a new era of McCarthyism.
Mahmoud Khalil has lived in Syria under Assad. He knows what an authoritarian regime looks like. And he says, this is it.
Markey says the Trump administration has sent the two 1,000 miles from their homes to Louisiana before the most conservative appellate court in order to defend its abduction and detention of migrants the administration disagrees with, seeking a more favorable ruling of its actions. Markey noted Ozturk simply wrote an op-ed. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres gave a dire warning about the state of the climate today and said a meeting with diverse diplomats affirms a global commitment to climate action at this year's climate discussions, COP30 in Brazil.
We don't have a moment to lose. No region is being spared from the ravages of accelerating climate catastrophes. And the crisis is deepening poverty, displacing communities, and fueling conflict and instability.
Critics have said global climate talks have been hijacked by fossil fuel interests. Guterres says prices for renewables have plummeted and climate jobs are growing around the world. His comments come as a new study out today estimates the world's largest corporations, 111 of them, have caused $28 trillion in climate damage, with more than half of the total figure coming from 10 fossil fuel companies. I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.
818-985 KPFK 818-985-5735. That is our phone number. KPFK.org. That is the website where you can make a secure pledge to keep this station on the air. This station that brings you vital information. And before I get into that vital information, let me just real quick for my folks who are joining us on YouTube on the Black Liberation Media platform. Good morning, Terry Conley. Good morning to the Jamon. Good morning, Yipper. Good morning, Warren. Good morning, Chitimaka. Is it Maka or Macha? Good morning, Leah. Good morning, Sugar Shan. The one from Brooklyn. How are you doing? Yipper, are you clowning Lenny Kravitz? Yes, he's still doing something with his cute self. Yep. Okay. All right. So, again, I'm going to be speaking with Tia Oso regarding media reparations. But before we do that, we're going to talk with Amber Walker of Safety Bound, who's going to talk about a program that was held last week, programming coming up, and work around the issue of reimagining public safety and the sheriffs. With me now is Amber Walker, who is the director of Safety Bound, a project to imagine, or should I say reimagine, public safety. Amber, thank you so much for being on Rootwork today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Now, last week was a launch of a program called Communities Not Cages. You've been on Rootwork before. Before you tell us about that action last week, remind our audience about Safety Bound.
Yeah, definitely. So Safety Bound is a education platform that was launched last year, and it is designed to be a digital educational platform for folks around the country to understand the harms the sheriffs cause and to reimagine their role in public life and the roles they play and power they have in local communities.
So just out of curiosity, why is it that you specify sheriffs as opposed to police?
Yeah, so unlike police, sheriffs are elected officials and they have a lot of power that is unchecked and that is really, pretty wide ranging in local communities. So sheriffs control jails. They are over most county jails in the country. There are 3,300 sheriffs across the country in about 48 of 50 states, and they not only control jails, but they also are able to patrol, they're able to detain, and they are also able to sometimes be coroners or victors. And so they have a lot of power that goes unchecked. And, it's up to folks who have voting power and constituents to be electing sheriffs that are in service to them and their needs in the community. And so that's why we really focus on them, because they are kind of obscure. They are not as well known in terms of what the powers they have and the harm that cause the communities. And so our goal is to really educate and bring people into that knowledge so that they can also hold them accountable and help to reduce the harms they're causing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So again, last week, Communities Not Cages, that was a kickoff event for a project you all are involved in nationwide. Tell our audience about that.
Yeah, so along with some pretty big national partners who work within the immigration rights space, the Detention Watch Network, to name one, we were a part of a day of action called Communities Not Cages, which is really just to bring attention to all of the ways that the administration and state, federal, local electeds are all working with Trump to expand and to continue to deport our immigrant friends. And so our goal really was to get people to mobilize around that in their local communities through different ways. So there was some digital efforts. There were also efforts within in real life and actions at present, within communities to really put pressure on the folks who are elected and able to actually make change in stopping deportations. And so the one big day was just really to bring attention to really kind of cut through the noise of all the stuff that's happening right now, to say, hey, this is an issue that we should focus on. So really to demand of Congress people, demand of local elected officials to say, no, we shouldn't be doing this. This is not how we should be using our time or resources, and we should really be diverting that there's a lot of funding that's trying to be directed toward immigration as well. And so really to bring attention and to really put pressure on those officials who are able to make the change within Congress and within the local systems that empowers that meeting to stop deportations and stop working with ICE.
Mm-hmm. I see on your website, safetybound.org, there's a small video up there. How long is that video?
About a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, tops. Very, very short.
Perhaps I should play it
Yeah,
for
sure.
our listening audience. If I can figure out how to do that. All right, let's do that then. If it's that slight, that's small, that's short. Let's see.
Imagine an ornament, a decorative pin or brooch, with the power to grant its wearer the right to kill, to imprison, to enslave. An adornment that would so transform the wearer that passersby wouldn't bat an eye if they saw the wearer separating a family or throwing them out of their own house. Now imagine who would be given this harmful trinket. In a young country where one group of colonists was struggling to assert its dominance. What would they do with that power? In the face of the enslaved seeking freedom or the abolition of the system that built their group's wealth and power? What would they do when that dominance was challenged? When the people they oppressed challenged their claim to the power of that ornament? Imagine what would happen if we reimagine the meaning of that trinket. If it meant responsibility, accountability, care, or nothing at all. Imagine if we set our sights on a different star and didn't rest until every last person was safe. We don't have to accept the sheriff's office as it is. In fact, we can't.
Did you say ornament and trinket? Is that what you said?
So that wasn't my voice, but yes, that's what she said. Basically, what we were trying to say is the symbolism of like how such a small symbol, but such a big, big power. And like, there's like a saying that says that like, why be governor when you can be king? Sheriffs rule like kings in their counties. They have unmasked power. Like I said, it is really in the ways that they are able to wield that power and to really like wreak havoc in the communities. And so currently, as it stands, one of the biggest harms that they are really causing is working with immigration enforcement. And so because they have such information about who's in their counties, who's in their communities, especially undocumented folks, they're able to get the information and like through detainer requests, able to like detain people. There's an agreement called 287G, which allows them to also act as enforcement and patrol, through a task force model. And so through all of that, it's just really, bringing more harm to the communities and also like to our undocumented folks. And so, working with ICE, they are able to then, give them more beds. And there's this whole, budget reconciliation happening right now in Congress that gives ICE more money to then have more beds to then deport more people. And this is, like I said, we can be having across our country, not only for people who are undocumented, but some people who are naturalized or who have citizenship or who were born here. There've been all these stories coming out of just like, them not being smart and not being strategic and not really, being reckless in a sense. And so, and a lot of that is at the hands of the sheriffs giving information and allowing them to come into their counties and, just kind of do what they want and working with them directly. And so our goal really is to really push sheriffs to do something different, to really be like, hey, one, this isn't within their capacity. They don't have the staffing, resources, time. They should be focused on their local communities and the actual public safety that's happening and is needed there. And so I think that one of the things that we are doing with Safety Bound is we are working with a couple of other national organizations. In the next few weeks, we're going to put out a tool that will allow constituents to directly through a system call their sheriff and put pressure on them to either, stop working with ICE, or if they are on the fence about what they should be doing in this moment due to the fear coming down from the administration, to just push them to not even engage initially with them. And so that tool is going to be it'll be called we're calling it the Call Your Sheriff tool, but basically it's just going to be a really easy tool for folks to be able to patch through and call their sheriff directly and say, hey, this is not what we want as a voting public. this is not what you should be doing, using your resources for, and we don't want this. And so like really putting pressure on them to change the way they've been acting and behaving, and how they've really been empowered and emboldened through the Trump administration.
Yes, definitely under the Trump administration, much more scarier times than we have. I can't say we've ever been through, but it's a lot more scarier times under this Trump administration. I'm speaking with Amber Walker of Safety Bound, which is a project to reimagine the sheriffs in our communities, to reimagine public safety and law enforcement. We're speaking about communities without cages and communities without sheriffs running amok. Now, the upcoming work that you all have, can you tell our audience about that in the time that we have left?
Yeah, so basically what we're going to be doing is with Surge Action and a couple of other national partners, we are going to be releasing a tool, launching a tool that will basically allow, we want a national mobilization of constituents across the country who are like, hey, a lot of people are just like, what should we be doing? How are we organizing? And this is one digital organizing space to be tapping into. And so basically it'll be a platform that we give them a script, say, this is what the problem is, this is why it's wrong, this is what you should say to your sheriff, and putting pressure on them to call them directly to their office and say, we don't want you to work with ICE, we don't want you helping with deportations, you should be focused on your local communities and the big problems and issues that they're in, and this is a federal issue, not a local issue, and you should not be using your resources. And thankfully there are a lot of sheriffs who are already saying that, but really trying to get the critical mass of them across the country to change their behaviors and not to move toward working with ICE due to fear or due to their own, just bad acting and xenophobia, racism, whatever you call it. And so that tool will be launching, like I said, next few weeks. We're finalizing everything currently, and we'll be working, with, like I said, national partners and folks with bigger platforms to really make a big push for that, so that there's at one time there's a really pretty big impact on like how sheriffs are seeing their constituents show up and really talk to them directly.
Now, I'm getting some background noise. I know you're in an airport about to jet to some other city. So I'm not going to
traveling. Sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. No problem. So I'm not going to hold you too much longer. But we have the website, safetybound.org. For those listeners / viewers who want more information on the work that Safety Bound is doing, how can they keep up with you, with the work of the organization? How can they follow y'all?
Yeah, safetybound.org, but also we are at Safety Bound on all platforms. Currently Blue Sky, Instagram, and I believe we're still on X. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, you can follow us at Safety Bound on all platforms.
At Safety Bound on all platforms. Now, again, I was hearing background noise from you. I've got some background noise of my own over here with my neighbor doing construction. So my focus has been just a little bit off. Is there anything, before we go, is there anything pressing you want our audience to know?
Yeah, I want them to know that they can make change and that they are needed, and we do need their voice, and we need their empathy. We need them to really care about this. It is affecting everyone, not just, this is one issue amongst a lot of issues, due to the executive orders and things that come down from the administration. And to know there's a lot to be fearful of or be thinking about. But like, I think that this is something that if you are like, hey, I want to be making change, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing to do. Like, this is one clear way that you can directly put pressure on a local official to change how they've been acting and to really affect, what we see as like a beginning of a pending battle with trying to like upend democracy. And so I think that, folks should follow Safety Bound. And then also like if you are in a city where you are just like wondering what's happening, I can put some links in chat for you or email you some of the ways that folks locally are organizing consistently around, like not just last week for the Day of Action, but just consistently around really holding folks accountable locally around immigration. So I can send those links and folks can get involved there as well.
Please provide me with that information and I will pass that on to our audience. Amber Walker
Definitely.
of Safety Bound, you be safe getting on this plane to continue this work. Thank you so much for being on Rootwork today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. We are in fund drive right now, and it is imperative that KPFK remains on the air so that we can bring you guests like Amber Walker, who I was just speaking with, of Safety Bound. It is imperative that you know about the existence of this organization and the other organizations they are in coalition with and the work that they are doing locally. We have to stay on the air in order for that to happen. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. Now, when you go to that website, kpfk.org, you will be able to see what we call premiums. These are thank you gifts that we provide to you for pledging particular amounts to this station. You can give any amount that you want. If you give $25, however, you become a member of Pacifica Foundation, of KPFK. You get a say in the governance of this station. And in addition to that, as I said, depending on the other amounts that you give, you can choose from a list of various premiums, thank you gifts. We understand you can't get something for nothing, but if you don't want anything in return and you just want to support independent media, then by all means, please, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. That is the phone number. You can make a secure donation via that phone number, or you can go to the website, kpfk.org. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, kpfk.org. You know, I'm not really sure, but I think when I bees on the air and I bees pitching like this, I think some of y'all don't really take me seriously. I'm serious. KPFK needs your money. They need your donation. Will you please donate? See, this is one of the things that I like to do. If you like this show, please donate. If you don't like this show, please donate so they'll take it off the air. You see how that works? You can't get something for nothing. It's a give and take. If you like it, if you don't like it, let your voice be known. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. Now, let's get into this next interview with Tia Oso of Media 2070. It's a project of Free Press, and she's going to be talking with me about the concept of media reparations. Here with me now is Tia Oso, who is the director of Media 2070, a project of Free Press, which imagines a reparations form of journalism. Thank you so much, Tia, for being on Rootwork today.
Thank you so much for having me, Thandi.
So, reparations in journalism. Now, you know, that sounds like something that should be close to my heart. I want to hear all about it. But before we talk about that, let our audience know what is Free Press and what is Media 2070.
Absolutely. So Free Press and Free Press Action is an organization that's dedicated to protecting our rights to free speech, advancing access to quality information by advocating for issues such as net neutrality, and also dedicated to expanding, right, and investing in quality journalism by organizing media and media institutions. And Media 2070 is a project that was started in 2020 by Black staff at Free Press during, the racial reckonings and uprisings after the murder of George Floyd, in order to have an initiative focused on, well, what does racial equity look like? And actually, beyond racial equity, how do we truly actually reckon with the ways that our media system is responsible for and perpetuating structural racism in this country? And so out of that organizing within the Free Press, Black staff at Free Press, as well as partners in the network in the field, organizations such as ZEAL, organizations such as Media Justice, the Media 2070 project was birthed. And we envision ourselves as an Afrofuturist project. So we projected into the future, into the year 2070, where we've won media reparations. And then we came back here, right? And we're working towards that end through the mechanisms of reparative journalism, through advocating for reparations, and not just talking about reparations in the media, but also reckoning within media systems and media structures to advance reparations as well, because a lot of people may not know. In our groundbreaking essay, launched the project with a research essay called An Invitation to Dream Up Media Reparations, where we detail the ways that our current media system is actually rooted in enslavement and rooted in harm. The earliest colonial newspapers, before, the United States was the United States, colonial newspapers financed their operations by selling ads, advertising enslaved people, by selling, runaway slave ads. Some media owners, were also slave owners. And so even just at the roots of what is our corporate media system now, is the practice of enslavement. And so we believe that our corporate news entities and media entities that also, finance themselves off of the crime beat, right? That is predicated on anti-Blackness and enriching themselves on anti-Blackness. And now, algorithmic biases. We believe that we are owed reparations and owed media reparations in particular, because also in our media policy in this country, the Federal Communications Commission was in the practice of redlining. When they first issued broadcast licenses, the commissioners a lot of them were segregationists, and they issued licenses, right, actually segregating the airwaves to white supremacists, to white citizens council leaders, to Klan leaders to broadcast and then advance, right, a segregationist agenda, even baked into our policy around media, who gets access to media, who gets access to airwaves. And so our project is based on reckoning with that history, right? And then creating practices of repair and advocating for remedies and for redress.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm looking at it from the journalistic standpoint. We don't, as a population, well, as a population in the United States, as people in the field of journalism, journalists, media workers, usually mainstream journalists and media workers, very rarely turn the critical eye on themselves.
Right.
Very rarely turn the critical eye on themselves. And when you turn the critical eye in history, it's just so much. But then again, the history of this country is so much.
Exactly. It's really critical that we even question that. Sorry to cut you off. It's critical that question the practice of, the professionalization of the journalism field, to not turn the same investigative eye, right, that we champion journalists for having, not turning it on themselves and not turning it on the field and on those practices.
Mm-hmm. It's just that whenever I hear about media, systemic inequality, systemic racism, white supremacy, I remember the first thing that comes to mind for me, which is so vivid, is when I first started studying Ida B. Wells and how newspaper editors, publishers would call for the lynching of Black people, would announce when the lynching would be, and then provide a blow-by-blow description of what happened at the lynching. I was like, my God. Exactly. But as you say, everything that you just laid out, and I'm sure we probably are missing one or two key items, right? It's just so much. It's just so much. But speaking as someone who needs some media reparations, let's move into the future. Not dwelling on the past, moving to the future. Speaking as somebody who would love some media reparations, you have got a project coming to Los Angeles, May 2nd, I believe.
Yes.
Please tell our audience what that project is.
So one of the practices that we do, like we said, we use an Afrofuturist framework. And so we have created an initiative called the Black Future Newsstand. And so the Black Future Newsstand is a activation where we've taken it now to, I think, 3 or 4 different cities. Oh my gosh. So it was birthed in Harlem, New York, then visited Afrotech in Austin, Texas, and then Chicago, Illinois last fall. So this will be the 4th Black Future newsstand coming to Los Angeles next week, May 2nd. And this one is going to be really special because it is not just a newsstand event. So the newsstand itself is an experiential event where we say in the newsstand of the future, right? And we had a media system. When we get our media reparations, meaning Black people have a thriving media ecosystem in which we are able to own and control our narratives from ideation through distribution, then that means when you go to a newsstand, where you can, get news and get media and get information, that means it would be abundant, right, with the plethora of Black stories and information about Black people that is affirming or, even just accurate, right? All of these different things. And so we populate this newsstand with publications from local Black owned publications as well as national, and also different types of media. So there'll be also books, zines, as well as newspapers and print mediums as well. And we're really inviting people in the experience that we build around the newsstand to wrestle with different ideas and questions around Black storytelling, around Black media, around, the power of our stories, right? And also the ways that the media system has been used, to harm our communities and the media system that we want to begin to demand together. And so the event next week is a culmination of a partnership that we've had with University of Southern California, Charlotta Bass Journalism and Justice Lab, where we have been working with students in that program to develop reparative journalism practices, and in particular, studying media apologies, such as the LA Times apology that happened in 2020, and then also to examine the impact of media coverage on Black communities, and then open up opportunities for redress, open up opportunities to not just treat Black folks and Black communities as subjects to report on, but what does it look like to be in community with people? And so the students have collected over 70 interviews where they talk to Black Angelenos about their experiences with media coverage around George Floyd, around the death of Nipsey Hussle, around the Watts riots, and then also talking to them about what they've learned about themselves, what those experiences were like, and what they would like to see. And we are going to be presenting those interviews in a creative soundscape, and as well as having folks the opportunity to think about and talk about what are their experiences with media and storytelling, both the negative impacts but then also the possibilities that we see with media, and to be in community with each other. So there's going to be opportunities for people to hear the interviews, opportunities for people to hear some music and other types of creative things to help, kind of facilitate our processing. And then throughout the day, depending on when folks come, we'll have some other kind of enrichment experiences that go along with it. The exhibition will also include a local artists. We have, I think, 7 local artists that have contributed to an art exhibition that is going to feature art inspired by ideas around reparations, as well as a augmented reality, these technical terms, an augmented reality activation by an organization called Axel Impact that envisioned trying to help people see into the future where reparations have been made real around land. And they partnered with the group in Evanston, Illinois. That was the first local reparations initiative to pass in the country. And it's called Worlds of Possibility. And so, it's going to be it's a multifaceted event. We're also partnering with a couple of local organizations, such as Black Being LA. So we'll have a little meditation. We are hoping to get a couple of DJs to come out and, spin a couple of records and things like that. And then our other producing partner, Media Justice, we're going to be doing a political education panel about tech, media, and race and citizenship as well. And the art activation, the curators from Zeal Cooperative are going to come and do a talk, all different types of really yummy, great things happening, because we I just laid down all of this analysis, right, about like the history of media harm in this country, the way that our media policy is racially biased, and people don't always know what to do with that information or how to digest it. And especially when you're talking about historical analysis and the type of really thorough research that we do, people kind of sometimes can get overwhelmed to kind of throw their hands up about it. And so we use narrative and creative strategy like our Black Future Newsstand activations to give people an opportunity to like see and touch and feel and learn and be in community, and understand that, you know, together we can make the future possible, the future that we want. We can work towards that. And so we see these kind of, you know, activations and these community partnerships and collaborative efforts as an opportunity to organize folks and to really, you know, cultivate the ground, right, that we need as a culture to, you know, help advance some more robust campaigns. Before I get you to, you know, sign a petition or call your legislator, I want you to first really understand, right, what it is that we're working towards.
I'm speaking with Tia Oso of Media 2070, which is a project of Free Press. We're talking about the Black Future Newsstand, an installation coming to Los Angeles on May 2nd. We're talking about a lot of things media, a lot of things reparative journalism, etc., and so on. Now, I wanted to ask you, Tia, I understand the place of course, print media in history, not just our history, but in history. So I do understand the importance of the newsstand, but where does digital fit in this landscape? I understand the focus on the newsstand, magazines, newspapers, books. Talk about digital.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so one of the things, I was just talking with my colleague, Joe Torres. I'm sure you and some of your listeners have heard of him and his book, News for All the People. It's amazing to me that I get to work with him every day. And so we're talking about how our analysis of what is media needs to expand to include tech and digital culture and digital mediums, not only because they're quote unquote the future, but they are inextricably intertwined. There are very few publications, especially in today's society, that can survive without having a digital aspect as well. And, you know, that may seem kind of, you know, out of touch or like a shame, right? For people who are, you know, dedicated to print media, they're like, oh my gosh, digital is terrible, tech, all of these things. It was like, actually, because of the way that tech and digital media is intertwined in our society and our everyday lives so thoroughly, it is really important for us to understand that the digital information systems, the ways that information is able to be disseminated so quickly, distributed so quickly, and also the way that digital information systems are able to manipulate societies, that is inextricably interwoven with media. And actually, I would say that especially mainstream media and journalism as an industry as a whole is woefully behind actually really thoroughly understanding that. When you see, you know, 3 billionaires owning our major news publications in this country, right? And the 2 of them are tech billionaires. Okay. We need to understand that there is no such thing as separating, you know, traditional journalism and media from tech and digital media. When we see, you know, broadband access is also, you know, Jim Crow and redline. And for whatever reason, I used to live in South LA. I don't know why my internet is slower and when I'm in South LA than it was when I was living in Beverly Hills. It just doesn't add up.
You don't know? You don't know the reason why?
We do know the reason why, right? And everybody listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. So we're talking about tech and digital infrastructure that is also racialized, and it is also, you know, a mechanism of capitalism just accelerated, right? And the last thing that I'll say about this is we also need to understand social media and the ways that digital media infrastructure and social media has been set up and orchestrated to capitalize on the ways that Black folks and brown folks in particular build community. So we build community wherever we are. We just like, you know, when I talked about colonial newspapers, Black newspapers, and media organizations and institutions were founded in order to help build Black community, to define Black citizenship, to get information to our people. We talked about Ida B. Wells. We got to lift up the California Eagle, okay? And shout out to
Charlotta Bass.
Okay, word to Charlotta Bass. And when we got into the digital streets, same thing. The first people I followed on social media, white folks might follow, celebrities and Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber because that's who they're excited. The first people I followed on social media was my sorority sisters, right? Because what y'all talk about? We talking over here, same way we talking in the group chat. You know what I mean? And so these tech companies have seen that and seen the power that we built with, Black Lives Matter, okay, Tumblr and hashtag and videos and organizing. And it drove them to want to control and manipulate it and intercede on that. And those are the things that we need to understand about digital media and technology, is that the power that we build in our community information systems, as I call them, is a power that is threatened by these, tech billionaires owning and controlling who gets to communicate with each other and what the algorithm feeds us in our news feeds.
Which was that was the next question brewing up here up top: race, gender, and the algorithm. That sounds like a heck of a book title.
Yes,
I don't know if it's already out there, but
write that down. That's your next book.
I wish, I hope. But yeah, race, gender, and the algorithm. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we talk about race, gender, and the algorithm. I want to bring up Moya Bailey and the term misogynoir. And like I said, the first people I followed online were my sorority sisters and then my other friends, and then maybe some celebrities. And as we're building community, especially in that kind of like, think 2009, 2010, 2011, time of building online conversations online, the thing that social media did was democratize access to disseminating information and distributing information. And some of the people who did the best work at that were Black women and femmes online, and especially Black feminists and Black feminist scholars and public educators, and the ways that we were able to discuss really complex ideas, but relate them to our everyday experiences. Is the thing I love about popular education and public scholarship is this, that we were able to, yes, coin a term like misogynoir, yes, popularize Kimberly Crenshaw's work, right? And talking about intersectionality, to talk about what was happening in our everyday lives. And then right away, you see backlash, you see resentment from Black women organizing online, like hashtags like UO cases to talk about street harassment, for example. And then the real kicker is things like Gamergate, where you see people pretending to be Black women in digital spaces to try to interrupt that power building, to try to, what do you call it? Usurp our influence.
Disrupt and usurp.
Disrupt and usurp our societal influence. Because here's the thing, we Thursday nights, live tweeted a Scandal and other Shonda Rhimes shows. We didn't tell you to come over here and follow us. We didn't tell you to get in on the Black Twitter hashtag, but you can't resist it, right? And so while you're over here,
you can't stay away.
Cannot stay away. You're gonna get this education, right? And so to see the ways that now there's the algorithm is privileging clickbait, right? To, rage bait Black women because you want Black women's attention to drive clicks and views around your hashtags. You see entire, Russian psychological operations happening where they're paying content creators, Black American content creators in the United States, to do skits about sex and relationships, again, to drive a wedge in Black communities and to drive these really divisive conversations. These are like strategies that how is a foreign government knows how he wants to manipulate our community in specifically in the digital space. And then you see the manosphere, a multi-million-dollar industry now predicated on critiquing and analyzing and attacking Black women in communities, Black women celebrities, the vilification of Black women, girls, femmes, trans women, in order to, again, monetize, to make money, to extract, as well as to vilify. Megan Thee Stallion, the rapper, did a documentary that I think is on Amazon Prime, where she talked about the social media conversation and social media discourse around the trial of Tory Lanez, where there were bloggers, again, being paid money, being monetized to deny her victimhood and to deny the fact that she was assaulted by this person, a close personal acquaintance. And that's only just one story that I'll lift up that, really hits at that intersection of race and gender and the algorithm. It's like, why is it that the social media algorithms and digital spaces and digital media is able to so quickly monetize entire industries in around misogynoir and around anti-Black women violence?
Race, gender, hate, and the algorithm. Man, so much. It's so much. I hadn't expected all of this. I need to bring you back for just one entire hour of just you and I, and more you than me. I'm gonna just go get a pillow and chill, turn the camera off me, and just let you talk, let you run it. Speaking with Tia Oso of Media 20, a project of free press, which imagines a media landscape that is reparatory, that does not condone harm, but instead lifts up narratives of justice and freedom for communities of color, Black communities in particular. If people want to know more information about Media 2070, about media reparations, I know I want to know more about media reparations. How do they get in touch with you and or Media 2070?
So people can get in touch with us by going to our website, mediareparations.org. And we're also Media 2070 on Instagram, and Media 2070 on Blue Sky, and Media 2070 on YouTube. And on our mediareparations.org site, or on the blackfuturenewsstand.com website, you can join our mailing list, and you can also apply to be a member of our Media 2070 consortium, which I'm already counting you in the consortium, since you're going to be featured in some of our work that we're doing with the Black Future Newsstand next week. Okay, tune into our weekly for that. But that is our, kind of big tent of Black media makers and artists and scholars and creatives that we're doing our world building with around advancing reparative journalism towards media reparations.
And for those who haven't or can't get onto the internet just yet, that May 2nd event, Black Future Newsstand, where will it be held and at what time?
So the event is going to be all day. It's a public exhibition all day on Friday, May 2nd. It is opening at 10 a.m. We're having a special kind of like news conference, media professionals and media students opportunity at 10 a.m. and then rolling through out the day. And it is going to be held at the Sacatel, which is an event space that is on the first floor of a print shop, actually, there in, I think it's called Mid-City neighborhood on Washington. It's like Washington and the 10.
Washington Boulevard and
near
the 10 freeway?
Yes.
Okay, that's not going to work, sis. We...
I'm looking up the address right now.
The 10 downtown, the 10 in West LA. What we talking about?
You're like, now, where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. So it's going to be held at the Sacatel, which is an event space on the ground floor of a print company, 5632 Washington Boulevard. And that is zip code 90016.
Okay, so that for LA folks, so that tells me it's west and it's not east. And it's all day, 10 a.m. until approximately when?
9 p.m. 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. We'll be
9
there.
p.m. And what's the address one more time?
5632 Washington Boulevard.
And that's Sacotel, Sacotel?
Sacatelle.
Oh, like Sawtell, but Sacatel. Okay.
Exactly.
Don't mind me. I'm doing my LA thing. Don't mind me. Tia Oso, thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much for being on Rootwork today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And definitely got to have you back to go into more depth about this whole issue. So put pencil me in your calendar.
Absolutely. I'll come back whenever you want.
Okay. That was Tia Oso of Media 2070. I left off the 70. Media 2070, not Media 20, which is a project of Free Press. Also spoke earlier with Amber Walker of Safety Unbound. This is Rootwork on KPFK-Pacifica Radio and on the Black Liberation Media platform. Here in Los Angeles, KPFK is in their fund drive. That means we need you to call us at 818-985-5735. 818-985-KPFK. We need you to go to the phones, or we need you to go to the website at kpfk.org. kpfk.org, or 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. We are in fund drive. We raise our money to run this station by appealing directly to you. We do not take advertising. KPFK has been around since at least 1959. We just started doing underwriting. And it's not even that widespread yet. We do not take commercial money. We do not have advertising. We do not do commercials. We do not have sponsors like big tech, like the military industrial complex, like mainstream, or what they're calling legacy media, like these corporations that are polluting and poisoning the earth. We ain't got none of that. We have you, the power of the people. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. I got 1 minute to raise some money. Gary Baca, GB, Gangsta Boogie. What can these people get if they donate or make a pledge to KPFK? Can you give me a little something real quick before we get up out of here?
Yes, they can get the Ta-Nehisi Coates book, The Message, and that's for a $100 pledge. Call the phone room and they'll let you know the details. 818-985-5735. And of course, we've appreciated your show for many, many years. And, I know you're right there on the front lines, and you talk to some of the greatest talkers out there, the folks that are really doing stuff. So, give it up for this sister right here, Thandisizwe, and thank you so much for what you do. And I just want to say that it's great to hear you in the mornings. So pledge your support. And you work so hard, and we're raising funds here, and every show, every program, has their unique way of fundraising. But for this program, hey, go ahead and call now in 818-985-5735 and lend your support, and know that you're in solidarity with a great radio station. You want to keep KPFK independent. You want to keep KPFK free speech, and especially now during these times. 818-985-5735. Yeah, we only got about 30 seconds left. So yes, call and pledge your support for Rootwork.
Let them phones up, 818-985-KPFK or kpfk.org. I appreciate your words, Gary. And I appreciate KPFK for taking a chance on me and giving me a platform. That's the beauty of independent grassroots community media. You don't got to be rich or a billionaire in order to have access to the airwaves. KPFK and Pacifica have been doing that since 1949. Make sure that these institutions continue to do that. Give us a call at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or kpfk.org. Thanks so much, Gary Baca. Thank you, Amber Walker. Thank you, Tia Oso. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga, and I am out of here. Peace.